Hey Joey, it's September, which means it's time for an August wrap up. So these are all of the physical books I read in August. I listened to a lot of them on audio. I have a couple I don't own physically, but the current goal is to read some more of my physical TBR because it's getting a little bit out of hand. I have my handy dandy reading journal here because I have the memory of a goldfish. So let's get into it. Starting out, I read Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This is book 2 in an interconnected standalone series after Forget Me Not. It follows Xander and Gwen, who are musicians. She plays the violin, he plays the cello. They're in the same orchestra, but he's never noticed her because he's some hotshot, fancy pants cellist. And he finally notices her because she goes to a wedding to play violin. They want her to play the cello. She ends up playing his cello, and the story evolves from there. I found that the romance happened too quickly for my tastes in this, but I liked pretty much everything else about it. I gave it 4 stars. Not a lot of complaints. I then listened to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I don't rate memoirs. The things that happened to this poor girl are awful. And that's really all I have to say about that. I think everyone should listen to it, but it was devastating, and I think that was the point. I then got an arc of Delicate Escape. My physical copy is on its way to me from the Pacific Northwest, but I have not received it yet. I read this early as an arc on my Kindle. I am obsessed with this series. I love everything about it. We're following Shep and Thea. Shep is Rhodes from the first book, Fragile Sanctuary's brother. He's a contractor. He has trouble kind of staying in one place and not just fixing things all the time. He's a fixer. And Thea is literally on the run from her past life that was kind of ruined because of, get this, a man. And so she has trouble trusting people, but Shep takes an interest, and man, does he make it known. What a man. I loved this book. I love Catherine Cowles. I love this series. I love everything about it. 5 stars. I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Still has the sticker on it. Way to go, me. This is following Clementine. Her aunt passes kind of suddenly and leaves Clementine her New York City apartment, which her aunt has told her stories about how it's kind of magical and can transport you sort of into the past or into the future, 7 years to be exact. And Clementine doesn't believe this. She's just trying to get through life with all of the sort of grief she's dealing with until she experiences said phenomenon. One day she walks into her apartment and it's 7 years in the past with all her aunt's stuff there, and also there's a man there. And our story progresses from there. It's like a really beautiful touch on grief. I really liked it a lot. It was the perfect time for me to read it. I gave it 5 stars. I then read Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore. I read this on my Kindle. It was on Kindle Unlimited. So another one crossed off the physical TBR without having to read the paperback. I love that for me. This follows Lydia, a sole survivor of a terrible attack that happened when she was a child, and now she works at the Bright Ideas Bookstore. She experiences a sort of another trauma, and we're kind of figuring out what the truth is behind the one in her past and what the truth is behind the one that just happened. I wasn't overwhelmingly compelled by either of these sort of mysteries. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was fine. I finished up the Selection series by listening to The One. I listened to all the audiobooks of these. I think they were Rebecca Soler. Love her to pieces. I won't say much about what actually happens in this book because it's the third one. Spoilers. But I liked it. I liked this series as a whole. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was maybe tied for the first one for me. I liked what was going on. Yeah. I then finished up the Sutter Lake series by Catherine Cowles by reading Beautifully Broken Redemption. This one's following Anna and Mason. Anna used to be a resident at the shelter that she now works at. Mason moved to town to work for one of the other MMCs in this series, his tech security company. So he's sort of new in town and he's volunteering at the shelter. He takes an interest to Anna. Anna has trouble trusting people. Anna has to take custody of her sister's kids, and so he's helping her out with that. She really does not want to trust anyone, but she starts to. There may or may not be a fake marriage. This book was excellent. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. I did my third reread of The Anthropocene Reviewed for no reason other than I was craving some comfort and I wanted to listen to John Green talk for 12 hours. I listen to most audiobooks at 1.75, 2 times speed. I really wanted to savor this one though. I listened to it at like 1.25 because he does talk too slow, but I left it on a slower speed, so it took like basically the whole time. It was great. I had a great time. I spread it over like 3 days. I love this book. I read it with my eyeballs. I've read it with my ears twice. I listened to the podcast when it was a podcast. I think everyone should read this. Well, maybe they shouldn't, because I actually don't care if you don't like it. But I love it. 5 stars. I read Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. I love this Magnolia Fall series. It is maybe my favorite by her ever. I love a Laura Pavlov small town romance. I love A Single Dad. So this is following Nash, the single dad, and his son, Cutler Beefcake Hart, who I love dearly, and the new pediatrician in town, who thinks she's only going to be here for 6 months. And she moves next door to them. They're at the doctor more frequently because Cutler Beefcake has asthma, and Nash doesn't want to like her because she's not going to be in town long enough, but then the other girlfriends in his friend group start bringing her into stuff, and they're seeing each other more frequently, and he just can't stay away. I gave this 4.75 stars because nothing in the Magnolia Fall series has made me feel the way that Loving Romeo Book 1 has, but I do, like, this is a 5-star series for me. And Finding Hayes, the next one, which is Childhood Friends to Lovers Firefighter, might just get me, but love it. Next, I read The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a continuation of the Inheritance Games saga, but comes after the Inheritance Games trilogy. I loved the Inheritance Games trilogy. I've loved every book I've read by JLB. I like the puzzles. I like the sort of mystery element. I liked the sort of suspense almost that was happening in this one. I liked our cast of characters. I liked seeing our cast of characters from the last one. I gave this 4.75 stars because it left off on a cliffhanger, and that made me a little angry. Could have been a 5, maybe. I might have given it 4.75 even if it didn't end up on a cliffhanger, but I liked it quite a bit. I then finished the Lovelight series. So this is book 2, 3, and 4 after Lovelight Farms, which is a Christmas book that I read during Christmas time last year. I love the setting of these with like everything in my soul. It made me want to scrapbook. It made me want to drink a pumpkin spice latte. It made me want to roll around in the leaves. I loved it. It was the perfect like thing that I was looking for because I was craving fall and it was 85 degrees outside. Book 2, In the Weeds, follows Beckett and Evie. Beckett is the farmer on Lovelight Farms, where our story is set. Evie is the social media influencer that is in book 1, and she works with small businesses. She like travels around and works with small businesses to kind of build them up. But she recently signed with an agency that is kind of taking away her agency, and so she takes a step back. Her bestie's like, "Hey, where was the last time you were happy?" And the answer was Lovelight when she was there doing her social media thing in the first one. And there's some history between her and Beckett from a weekend they spent together, and it's kind of awkward, but also kind of not. And I love this. Love it. Then book 2, Mixed Signals, follows Layla, the baker on Lovelight, part 3 of our ownership trio, and Caleb Alvarez, who was once a small town deputy until he got fired for being too nice. He's now a substitute teacher. He is the sweetiest sweetie of sweetie, and I love him dearly. He has had a big crush on Layla and has been buying her baked goods despite not needing them, or maybe consuming too many of them. He was ordering like a cake a week just to see her, and he convinces her that because they're both having trouble dating, they should like experimentally date each other so that they can see where they're going wrong. and she thinks that's what they're doing, and he thinks, yay, I get to date Layla. And this was so lovely and such like a fun sort of twist on fake dating, because they weren't fake dating. Like, they weren't trying to prove to anybody that they were dating. They were almost trying to prove to people that they weren't dating, that they were just like going out to see what was going on with like why they were struggling so much. I don't know, it was so sweet. I love Caleb with everything in me. I gave this 4.75 stars. I gave In the Weeds 4.5 stars. And then finally, Business Casual. This is the new release from this series. This follows Nova, Beckett's sister from book 2, and Charlie, Stella from book 1's half brother. He works in finance in New York, but is frequently in Lovelight. And Nova is a tattoo artist who's kind of just trying to prove to everyone that she's got it, even though everybody already knows that she's got it. And she is working on building a second studio in Inglewild, the town, and Charlie is in town for a month taking care of the farm for reasons. And he's been trying to get her attention forever. She's been ignoring him until one day she doesn't ignore him anymore. And it's a sort of friends with benefits situation, which is not my favorite, but I did really love these characters. I did really still love being in this town. It was good. I gave it 4.5 stars just because the friends with benefits thing isn't my favorite. And then finally, I started Vampire Academy and got 3 books in. These books are just so much fun. I'm audiobooking them, but I did buy all of them because I just had to have them. I read book 1, Vampire Academy, book 2, Frostbite, and book 3, Shadowkiss, all in August, all in a row. Finished up my Goodreads reading challenge with these. So that was fun. But these follow Rose. She's a Dhampir. Their like whole life's mission is to protect the Moroi. She's at school training. She's in love with her mentor. Stuff is happening, crazy stuff all the time. It's just one of those where every single character is the first ever, the last ever, the only known ever, the first one in a century. It's just so ridiculous and fantastic, and I'm having a great time. I gave book 1 3.75 stars because they throw you directly into the deep end and I had no idea what was going on. I gave book 2 4.25 stars because I was having a really excellent time and it was very good. I gave book 3 4.5 stars. It would have been a 5-star, but as I said in my Goodreads review, if you know, you know. So it was a 4.5. Those are all the books I read in August. I'm hoping to finish Vampire Academy in September. I'm hoping to read books on my physical TBR in September. I am hoping to read more fantasy because it's getting into those fall months and I'm really feeling like that's where I'm going. But yeah, that was August. Let's see what we do in September.